Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Renee, and today I'm going to be taking you through a recap of my very first powerlifting meet. That was the USPA Kabuki Drug Tested Open. It was on September 11th in Pittsburgh at Union Fitness, and I competed in the 60 kilo weight class, which is 132 pounds. This was my first full power sanctioned meet. I had competed previously in 2019 at a local push-pull meet. I was the only girl in my weight class. There were only two girls there. It was the first time I hit 315 on deadlift, so that was a cool experience, but I was looking forward to a real meet that was sanctioned and there were opportunities to set state records. My goal for the meet was to just hit my gym lifts, but on the platform. I had no intention of PRing, just wanted to prove that I could do it, as well as set some state records in the submaster category, which is 35 to 40. I prepped for about 7 weeks using the Jonnie Candito 6-week program, plus a taper week, and I'll discuss all of that later. Over the years, I've been powerlifting since about 2018, and I had used mostly 531 or some different variations of that, and it worked fine. Definitely built my strength up, taught me a lot about technique, but coming off all of the shutdowns and putting in our garage gym, I decided to go a different route. I had done a trial run earlier in the summer. I had done 2 cycles of the 6-week program. I hit a squat PR of 270. Tied my best deadlift at 335, but that was a 15-pound sumo PR. I had actually pulled 335 several years ago conventional, and my bench basically stayed the same. I even did like a hybrid of the Candito bench-specific program with a 6-week program, and unfortunately my bench is just terrible. I am pretty good at hitting rep PRs, but unfortunately my bench for some reason has just been stuck. So at the beginning of the 7 weeks, I was weighing in around 135, 136. And I know that they say you're not supposed to cut for your first meet, but I knew the records I was after were in the 60 kilo, 132 class. So I just cut my macros just a little bit. I honestly never went below 200 grams of carbs the entire time, and ended up, as you'll see later, making weight. What I found worked the best, and probably wasn't really true weight loss, but in a sport that's determined on your weight for that day, I just pushed all my calories to earlier in the day. We'll discuss later, I train pretty early. I get up at about 4, so I found I was getting a lot of my calories earlier in the day, and there would be days I would be done eating around 4. So when you go that whole time overnight, you wake up and you're a little bit lighter. Is it true weight loss? No, but I just needed to make sure that I was in that 132 bracket for that day. Training went awesome. I hit several rep PRs, and I ended the cycle with a 255 squat, 165 bench, and 320 deadlift. Singles, just all in the last block of the program, which was 2 weeks out. Also 2 weeks out, as you'll see in the video of my deadlift, I kind of drop it at the top. And that's the first time that has happened in a really long time. I haven't had grip issues, especially since having a deadlift bar. And I tore my calluses for the first time ever. So 2 weeks out, I was training with Band-Aids and tape, anything I could just to get out here and hold the bar. At that time, going into my taper week, I picked my attempt selections because the taper week was based off what your openers are going to be. So for that taper week, 7 days out, which was Saturday before, I worked up to my squat and bench openers, which were 250 and 150. And then I did 3 singles at 90% of my deadlift opener, which worked out to 285. Then on Monday, I did 3x2 at 90% of my openers for squat and bench. And then for deadlift was 3x1 at 90% of my deadlift, or I'm sorry, 80% of my deadlift opener. And that Monday, I started just not feeling great. I don't know if it was just having put my body through a lot the previous 7 weeks, coming on with a little bit of a cut, like I said, but I just didn't feel great. Especially the squats, it was 225 for 2. I've done that for 8. So that should have been cake. And you can see in the video, it doesn't look terrible, but it felt way worse than it actually looked. Bench felt great. Deadlift, I went beltless, and that felt awesome. Wednesday, squat and bench 3 sets of 2 at 80% of my openers, and that was it. And then Friday was just kind of a get in the groove day. Squat and bench 3 sets of 1 at 70% of my openers. And honestly, Friday was the day I felt the worst. That was the day of weigh-ins, which I'll get to in a minute. I came home and went through this little session, and I really at that point wasn't sure how I thought the meet was gonna go. So Friday, woke up, went into weigh-ins, and I actually weighed in at 58.8, which was 129.4. So well under what I needed to be for the weight class. We also did equipment check and set the rack heights and submitted our openers. And I had based my taper week off the meet attempts I had put together a couple weeks before that, but just because of how the week went and how I was feeling, I actually dropped my squat and deadlift openers. I did go by myself. It's about a 40-minute drive. It was quite nerve-wracking being there by myself, just looking around, not knowing who's in your weight class, how strong are they. So for the rest of the day Friday after I left, I just ate normally as much as I really wanted to kind of go ham on some Chinese. I saved that for the next day and just ate my normal macros, maybe a little bit over, but I didn't want to do anything that would make me feel bloated for the next day. So I just rested and went to bed pretty early. So Saturday was meet day. We had to be there by 8, so we left by 7, and I still woke up not feeling that great. So I was kind of questioning why I even wanted to do this in the first place. As I was getting ready that morning, just thoughts going through my head. I was more proud of myself for just getting there and having not missed a training session. Most of them, like I said, were 4:30 in the morning, just because of work and my kids' schedules. That was the only time that made sense, either then or super late. I've tried training super late and it just doesn't work out. But I had the goal of doing the meet, so we were gonna do it. We got to the venue and found my name on the flight list, and I was quite surprised to see that I was at the bottom, which meant that my openers were of the heaviest in the flight. I also noticed that I was the only one in the 60 kilo submaster group. So that was kind of a bummer because I was kind of in the same situation again as I was at that local meet. So we had the rules meeting, we got warmed up for squats, and the place was great, Union Fitness. There were enough squat racks that no one had to share. I was kind of curious to see how it would feel going from the straight bar and bumper plates and steel plates. They kind of had a little bit of everything, out to the squat bar, which I'm used to training on, and the kilo plates on the platform. At this point, I was really glad I had lowered my attempts, not because of how things were feeling, but I just wanted to make sure I got numbers on the board. If you don't know, if you miss your squats, you're out of the meet. So I didn't want to bomb out, and I just wanted to get one number on the board. So my first attempt was 110 kilo, which is 242. And honestly, that time is such a blur.
Nice job.
I really don't remember them saying platform ready. I don't remember anything about it other than getting the 3 white lights. So once I got that first lift out of the way, I was in a much better headspace. For my second attempt, I asked to chip the state record, and I went with 115.5, which is 254.
Come on, Chris. Let's go, Renee. This is what you guys came here for.
And you'll see in the video, the judge kind of pulls me off to the side at the end, and I didn't even realize that after they would say squat, I would slightly move my foot. And I don't think they would red light me for that, but he told me to watch for it. So I definitely had that in mind when I went for my third. And like I said, it was just me and my husband that went. He was filming all of my attempts on my iPod. So you can see that the video quality isn't that great. Both of us had iPhone 6s at the time. Mine was full and his would barely stay on. So to get record of my lifts, we used my ancient iPod. It was just me and him. So he was out in the crowd and I was in charge of going to the table to set my attempts. And honestly, the list I had put together kind of went out the window, and I just went with what I was feeling at the time. So for my third attempt, I played it safe with 117.5, which was 259. And looking back, it moved pretty fast. I wish I had gone to the 120, which was 264.5. But again, it was another state record and a solid start to the day. So then it was time for bench. I opened at 67.5, which was 148.8. And that felt better than any of my warm-ups. So I said there were a lot of racks, but there weren't a lot of benches. So when it came time for warm-ups, there were a lot of sharing. I kept setting in with different people. Everyone's rack heights were just a little bit different and the benches were super slippery. So none of my warm-ups felt great, but getting out there on the competition bench and everything felt great. I did get a red light for my butt coming up on the one side, and apparently it was on the way down. Didn't really know I did that, but the judge pulled me aside and they were all super great, the judges and the announcers, with explaining to you why you got a red light, and really seemed like they wanted to help all lifters be successful. So my second attempt was 70 kilos, which is 154.
Let's go, Alex. Let's see what those judges say. 2 out of 3, good win. Let's see what those judges say. 3 right, good job.
It went just as expected. I had asked to chip the state record on that because the state record is 71, which is 156. I asked to chip it and they told me I couldn't. Obviously, I'm my first meet. I don't know. I still don't really understand why I couldn't. So if anyone watching this is more experienced and knows why I couldn't chip that record, let me know, just because I'm curious for the next time. So my third attempt, I went for 72.5, which is 159.5. And I was honestly pretty confident that I would get it. I've repped 160 for 5 in the gym before. But it just wasn't there. I kind of think I was in my head about that red light I had got and really focused on keeping my butt down rather than running through all the other cues that I normally go through on bench. I also found myself looking at the bar on the way down rather than at the ceiling. When I'm here, I always look at the ceiling. So I don't know if it was just being in a different environment, so many things going on. So my second attempt ended up being my best attempt. So I was super pumped going into deadlifts. It's my favorite lift. Warm-ups felt good. Even though it was kind of all over the place. There was only one deadlift bar and then I think there were 2 other stiff bars. So there were some with bumpers, some with steel, some with a combination of both. I would just set in with random people that were kind of close to heading to where I wanted to go with my next warm-up. And they all felt great. So I was kind of proud that I could adapt to those variables and still do what I needed to after kind of being spoiled of lifting on only a deadlift bar for the past year, basically. Fun fact, our first piece of equipment that came when we put in the garage gym was our deadlift bar. And the first night I was out here just on nothing with the deadlift bar messing around. My goal was to open at 315. Well, it's 314 now, 142.5. But like I said, I had put in the lower opener, and I'm glad I did. So my first warm up was 140, which is 308.
Looks good, took the same, right legs.
And you can't tell by the video, but it honestly felt terrible. It went up pretty fast, but just felt really heavy, heavier than it should. So I proceeded with caution and put in my second attempt at 142.5, which is 314.
Good to say, good lift, always up next, 534, getting running on the bar for
Felt much better. I was surprised that it moved as fast as it did with how the 308 felt. So at that point, I jumped 5 kilos up to 147.5, which is 325. Not a PR for me, but all 3 of my deadlifts were state records. I could have gone for a 4th and set an even higher state record, but it wouldn't have counted for my total, and I really wasn't sure what else I had left in the tank. So I just decided to call it a day, call it on a high note, and save some room for growth next time. So after all the flights finished, it was time for the awards, and this was another lesson learned for me. You remember I said I was the only person in the 60 kilo submaster group. I hadn't signed up for the open. I didn't really know when I signed up. I just saw my age group, picked that one. I knew those where the records were that I wanted to attempt, so I didn't bother signing up for the open, and I would have won the open as well. So I did get a medal for submaster, but I was the only person, so it is what it is. Overall, I hit my goal of setting the state records, and I ended with a total of 335, which is 737 pounds, and that was also a state record. It's 7 pounds under an elite total. I was kind of bummed. If I had gotten my bench and moved up on squats a little bit, I probably could have secured that. But overall, it was an amazing day, and I'm glad I didn't let the little bit of doubt that was in my head the night before and the morning of win. It was a pretty long day, but it was super organized. There were 2 platforms, just running nonstop. And my first squat, I looked at the time on my iPod, was 9:37. And my last deadlift was 1:34 p.m. So 4 hours to do 9 reps. Throughout the day, I had eaten a banana, a protein bar, 2 Pop-Tarts, and some fruit snacks. I drank pre-workout before squats and then again before deadlifts. I did like a half a scoop before deadlifts. I kind of wonder if I had taken some before bench, if that would have helped. We'll find out in the future, I guess. I am planning to compete again in April of 2022. I also did just submit for the Braun virtual push-pull, and I'm gonna make a whole video on that, but that was a fun little unexpected challenge, and spoiler alert, I did hit 2 pretty big deadlift PRs. So that's it for now. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content from a garage gym powerlifting mom, showing you that you don't have to be the strongest to be strong. Thanks, bye.